Coming at you guys from a very undisclosed location, gigantic coffee in hand, pistachio and white chocolate called the Mustachio. This is the location of a $1,000 buy-in Pot Limit Omaha cash game today, featuring some familiar faces and some new faces. This room that I'm in right now is the least interesting room of this entire property, which is a very cool property. Now, if you were to ask me, hey Andrew, do you want to play in a 5-10 Pot Limit Omaha cash game with Jay Nandez? I would probably need a little bit more enticement than that. But the enticement today is that the person asking that question was Jason Somerville. Consider me amongst the many gigantic list of fans. So when Jason Somerville asks, I'm usually going to say yes, even if it's a 5-10 Pot Limit Omaha cash game featuring Jay Nandez. Good news beyond hanging out with Jason Somerville and getting some time with him is that I have been getting a lot of Pot Limit Omaha time in the online cash games. It's been at least a couple weeks since I've played a single hand of live poker. So this will be the first live poker I've played. How's that gonna go?
I'm so scared.
Guys, I'm gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna buy in for my $1,000 and I'm gonna put those $1,000 to work immediately. $5, $10 with a $10 big blind ante, and of course there'll be a bunch of straddles later on. On my direct left, we got Todd Anderson running the show at Poker Night in America. On his left, Haley Hanna. She's hilarious on Twitter. One more street over, you'll recognize him. That's Jason Somerville. Next to him, Jay Nandez, and then across the table, William Lottie, straight out of Texas. Action underway here, and in the early going, it's just going to be very reasonable, sensible, 2 blind Pot Limit Omaha, 5-10 with a 10 big blind ante. We see Haley coming in for the limp for the 10 bucks. Action around to me, I have a trash hand, 10-8-5-3, but it's only $5 more to see some cards. I'm gonna chuck that $5 in there, and Todd checks in the big blind. So 3 ways to a flop that comes down 10-9-3 with 2 clubs. All things considered, not too bad. We got top and bottom pairs here, plus a flush draw. 3 ways out of position. Normally, I think we're probably gonna want at least top 2 or better, or maybe like top and bottom plus nut flush draw, something like that, or a straight draw, something of the sort to go along with our top and bottom as well. Out of position 3 ways, I just decided check, and action checks through. Turns a total brick, offsuit deuce. Let's fire some money out now after no action on the flop. Fire out 25 bucks. Todd folds. Haley wants to see one more card, and she makes the call. River is an offsuit 5, so we improve slightly up to 10s and 5s now. Don't think that makes too much of a difference though, especially now that a straight is possible on the board. I don't think we're gonna be able to get value from a worse 2 pair or a single pair, so I decided to check it. And Haley does not check it. She fires out for $50 here. We're gonna be losing sometimes to some straights. There are some busted flush draws. We kind of block those, but I am a curious guy. You guys know that about me. I'm gonna need to see it. What you got, Haley? And Haley has a bluff. She has a pair plus a straight draw that does not improve. Scoop in the first pot here.
Nice river.
10-8-5-3. There you go.
10-3.
All right. Are you a specialist at a game too?
No, I'm not much of a specialist in anything anymore. I used to be like a YouTube specialist. No, not even that.
You don't do YouTube anymore?
I do,
Yeah. We haven't
All right, next hand. A bunch of people limping into this pot before action gets over to us in the big blind. Looking down at aces. Ace, ace, jack, 4 with 3 clubs. Those 3 clubs, they definitely diminish the powerful, the power, the goodness of this hand. But you know what? It's still aces. I'm going to raise, even though we're out of position here, bump this one up to 60 bucks. We get a couple of those limpers out of there, but William and Jay Nandez are in there. They want to see some cards. So we go 3 ways to a flop this time that comes down 10-8-5 with 2 diamonds. Definitely not a good one for us. We have no diamonds in our hand and no real connectivity with this board. So when that's the case, we check it, and action checks all the way around. Turn is a total brick, offsuit deuce. William decides to take the lead now for $100 out of the small blinds. You know what? We still got the best pair in poker. We got pocket aces. We also have a straight draw. 3 makes us the wheel now. So he could be betting with plenty of bluffs, plenty of draws on this board. I'll make the call. Jane Andez out of there. Heads up to a river card that is the offsuit 3, giving us the wheel. That's good for the second nuts now. William not done betting though, and this time he fires out for $350. Hand is not good enough to raise. Gonna be tough to get value versus a worse hand. Fold seems out of the question. Process of elimination leads me to a call. I go ahead, chuck in the call, and William has himself a bluff.
You have a straight?
Yeah.
Wow. Ace 4.
Yeah, you have a straight.
Look at that hand. Nice hand. Wow. Ace 10 5. Deuce 3. Okay.
Love to see some people finding some bluffs here. We can beat a bluff. We've got a straight. Find a way to victory with these aces, taking the aggressive route pre-flop. Good start.
And when you see the person talk, it makes sense. You're like, oh, I
All right, still in the early going of this game. Insanity has not quite begun, but I promise it will come later. In this hand, though, Jane Andez, the legend, the PLO master, he comes in for the raise out of the cutoff spot, makes it $35 to go. We've got a pretty hand here. Looks like Christmas. Ace, Queen, 10, 8, double suited with good suits. And what I mean by that is that the highest cards in my hand have the 2 suits, the ace and the queen. If I had ace, queen, 10, 8, and it was ace of clubs, queen of clubs, 10 of hearts, 8 of hearts, that would be less good. But this is a nice double suited hand with an ace, and it makes it less likely that we're gonna run into aces. So pretty good candidate to put in a 3-bet, and let's do that. I go ahead and put in that 3-bet up to $115, and Jane Andez is going nowhere in position. He makes the call. Heads up versus the master. Flop comes down 7-7-3 rainbow. Definitely not what we have in mind. And I am gonna find a lot of C-bets on paired boards, especially when the pair is higher or when it's lower. So if the pair is ace, ace, X, king, king, queen, queen, jack, jack, something like that, or 5-5, X, 4-4, 3-3, 2-2, something like that. I think we want to find a lot of C-bets on those kind of boards. But when the pair is in the middle, I think our opponents who are calling pre-flop in a 3-bet hand are going to have those trips more often. And I don't think we want to just go ahead and C-bet 100% of the time. Even though we do have some backdoors, I don't think this makes for a great C-bet spot. I'm not 100% sure, but that's my feeling. So I decided to check it being out of position here. And after some thought, Jane Andez decides to fire out a bet for $75. Doesn't need to go too big if he has chips here, or if he has a bluff. That bet makes a lot of sense. And I don't think we want to peel here with ace high. We don't know if we end up making a pair, if it's going to be good. If we run into trips, that would be really bad. So not flopping much of anything here. I just decide to let this one go. As we can see, Jane Andez had himself the best hand. Betting for protection with the pocket jacks. Sometimes if he is behind pocket aces, he will improve to a full house. A very sensible hand of poker all around, I would say. Of course, wouldn't expect anything less from the master, Jane Andez. All right, finally, we waited approximately 3 hands. We got the straddle on now. 5, 10, 10 big blind ante, 20 in this hand. Action folds around to me on the button. I'm gonna play a lot of hands on the button, and we've got ourselves the king, jack, 10, 7 with 1 suit. That is easily good enough. Let's come in for the raise up to $75. Not 1, not 2, but 3 callers. Very typical multi-way flop here, heading to the jack, 8, deuce, rainbow, which gives us top pair, plus a gut shot straight draw. Backdoor flush draw. Action checks over to me. That seems good enough to put out a wager, I think. Let's grab some chips. Let's bet them. 120 bucks. Todd's out of the way. Haley is not out of the way. She makes the call. Jason Somerville out of the way. So heads up to a turn card. That's pretty interesting. It's a 9 of clubs, which gives us a straight, but it's not the nut straight. We got a jack high straight while a queen high straight is available. Haley checks it over to me, and I have a decision between betting or checking. And I go back and forth for a little bit in my mind, and there is definitely some value to be gotten here, I would say. Pretty easy to want to protect versus flush draws. Maybe go for value versus a set or 2 pair. But having removal to all of that stuff, I have a jack, and I also have the 10 of clubs. And that last piece of info is what eventually leads me to want to check behind. I think we have to worry about it slightly less often when we do have a club. And the times that we're up against the first nuts versus our second nuts, we can just have a pretty easy call down a lot of the time on the river in those instances. So I decided to check it back. We head to the river card, and Haley puts out a wager here on the river. I announced that I once again have a straight. That is an easy call. That's what I do. And a straight is once again good. Easy game, this PLO, people. Easy game.
I'll beat the kings.
Got to be a king, king, jack, 6 or something, yeah.
You turn the king in my hand.
Big antes in those games.
Moving along here, 5, 10, $20 straddle is on. Action over to us in the cutoff, looking down at 9765. Not the prettiest of hands, but we got some decent connectivity here. Usually you want the connectivity on the top end of your hand, so like 9875 would be better than 9765. But whatever, it's live poker. I'm in there. I raise it up to $75. Haley makes the call out of the small blind before Jay Nandez puts in the 3-bet, putting the hammer down. $310 to go. We got some connectivity here, as mentioned. You know what? I'm going to make the call, and I'm secretly rooting for Haley to not make the call because I think a lot of times we're going to be dominated here as far as our straight draws and flush draw go. And what do you know? Haley gets out of the way. Yes. So far, so good. My equity just went up a bunch. Small celebration from me to get this hand heads up. That's a bit of a win. But it's not as big of a win as I was actually expecting. I know our equity goes up when we're heads up here versus three ways, but it only goes up a few percentage points here, mainly because, as you will later on see, Jay Nandez has a 9 in his hand. We get the queen 10 deuce flop and Jay Nandez pots it. That is zero connectivity for us. So we have a very easy fold in this spot, of course. But yeah, as you can see, pre-flop, getting a little loosey-goosey here. Do not connect. Easy post-flop decision in this one.
I had the 9 high.
8, 7 or something, yeah.
Moving right along here. More poker to come. Just when you thought the video was going to end, 9 minutes into it, no, not even close, people. Because we've got ace, queen, 10, 9 in the hijack spot. Let's raise and make it $75 to go over the $20 straddle. Action over to Jay Nandez, who wants to play for more money. He comes in for the 3-bet out of the big blind spot. Pops it up, $250 to go now. We got ourselves a nut suit, and we got ourselves pretty good connectivity in position. We are going absolutely nowhere. I make the call, heads up to a flop that comes down pretty favorable for our hand. Queen 9-7 rainbow. That is queens and nines, good for top 2 on this board. And Jay Nandez puts in the C-bets for the full amount. Pots it here on the flop. We've got an easy decision. Top 2 good enough to go all in. I announce all in. Jay Nandez is committed. He makes the call, and we are off to the races here. Jay Nandez, double suited King, Jack, 9-7. That is bottom 2 pair with 2 backdoor flush draws plus a straight draw. And we've got ourselves the top 2 pair, which is in a dominating spot in this position. We have 66% equity versus his 34% equity. We've got him right where we want him, people. Let's see the remaining 2 cards. Turn card, ace of clubs. We have an even better 2 pair now, but as we can see, Jay Nandez picks up one of those flush draws. And what's interesting with the equities is that not too much changes, actually. He goes from 34% to 33%. 1 card to come now. We just have to fade a couple things here. Can we do it? No, we cannot do it. Backdoor club draw comes in. Backdoor flush, good for Jay Nandez. Damn it. We had him, people. We had him. That's how he does it. Sign up now.
That's right. I told you, I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. I'm blessed by the game.
I'll take 1,000, please. All right, it was looking a little too good to be true there. Can't win every hand, and you're almost always going to be riding the waves when you play the pot limit Omaha. We are riding the waves now in for $2,000 into this game, and we see in this hand William coming in for the raise out of the cutoff spot. Before, we're looking down at aces. Ace, ace, 4, deuce. 1 suit on the dealer button. Could find a 3-bet here with 1 suit. Maybe we'll find some flat calls occasionally, but after losing that last hand, am I going to do some flat calling with aces with a suit? No, I'm not. I go ahead and 3-bet up to $120. Haley makes the cold call out of the big blind, and William makes the call as well. So 3 of us heading to a flop that comes down 10, 8, 6. 2 spades in our hand gives us a flush draw to go along with our aces. But this board very much connected in the middling part of the deck. We've got no removal to that part of the deck itself. So I decided to check it back here. Turn shouldn't change too much. Offsuit 4. 5-7 makes a straight now as well. But when Haley checks and William leads out for a bet here of $250, we still got the nut flush draw to go along with our pair of aces, so I make the call. Haley gets out of the way. Heads up to a river card. That doesn't change anything. Off suit 3. Unfortunately, we cannot improve. Just left with 1 pair on a very connected board here. That's a brick.
Is that a brick? Let's find out if that's a brick.
Check.
William decides to check it over to me. We've got some showdown value with our pocket aces. I check this one back, and it is not good because William has made himself 2 pairs, twice the pairs that we have in our hand. Taking a quick look at the V-pips here. This is why Pot Limit Omaha is fun. Check out these V-pips. You love to see it. Yours truly playing over 50% of the hands. Naturally, of course. Pot Limit Omaha. Check it out. Play it. Love it. Action continues. Straddle still on 5, 10, 10, 20. We see William coming in for the limp out of the hijack spot. And we look down at the king, queen, 10, 4 with 3 spades. Now I decided to pot it here. And looking back, I have no idea what I'm doing because this is not a very good hand. 3 spades in our hand. The 4 is definitely a dangler. Does not connect whatsoever with the other 3 cards. Sometimes you'll have a dangler, but at least you have an ace, which gives you a wheel draw. In this case, we have no wheel draw. We just have king, queen, 10, 4 with 3 spades. So this was a little bit out of line for sure. Anyway, potting it we are. Todd makes the call. Jane Endes thinks it over before letting it go. And William completes for the additional $75. So 3 ways to a flop. That comes down Jack, Jack, deuce, rainbow. William checks it, and as mentioned, this is one of those kind of spots with 2 Broadway cards on the flop that is a pair. I'm going to want to find a little bit more c-betting opportunities on those kinds of boards. Have some cards that wrap around those jacks. Seems reasonable. Put out a small c-bet of $75. That is good to fold out Todd, but William is not ready to release. He makes the call. Turn makes this an interesting one for sure. It's another jack, which means any pair in one's hand is good for a full house. The lone jack will make quads now. And it's pretty interesting because William having limped in and then just limp called my raise almost always, almost assuredly eliminates pocket aces from his hand. And when we have a king, a queen, and a 10 in our hand, that's going to give some removal to the strongest pairs, i.e. the strongest boats. Jacks full of kings, jacks full of queens, and jacks full of 10s. It's not a perfect science. It doesn't mean he can't have those hands, but theoretically makes those hands a little bit less likely. I'm going to be the one to have the pocket aces, and with these cards, most likely to have the highest pairs. So I think emptying the clip here and starting here on the turn makes a lot of sense. Let's go ahead, fire out a wager here on the turn. William thinks about it for a brief moment before making the call again. Off to a river, which is almost always going to be inconsequential, and it is here with the 7. William checks it to me again. Time to complete the story here, people. Time to fire that one last shell because King High is not going to win. We're going to have to bet to win. Let's do that. I fire out for $400, just like I would do if I had pocket kings here. Trying to get value from a worse hand. A non-believing pocket 9s, pocket 8s, something of that nature. William into the tank here, thinking things over, announces that this might be a bit of a punt from him. That's not what we want to hear, and it's not what we want to see when he slides out the call. I announce it's a punt from me. I've got the king high here. Pocket kings in William's hand are good. Whoever came up with blockers theory needs to be taken out to pasture because it is a bunch of nonsense. No, just kidding. There is something to it. I know people don't like to hear about it. I think there's something to it, especially in Pot Limit Omaha. That's all fine and good. The real issue is playing this hand pre-flop from the jump. Don't know what I was doing. Maybe a little bit of tilt. Maybe getting after the pre-flop limper doesn't work out this time post-flop.
I bluffed a whale over there.
I just always believe Andrew. I don't know. He's just an honest guy.
Straddle.
No poker player is an honest.
Chips, please.
All right, I got my Team Run It Up hoodie on now. Switching up the vibes. Only playing good from now on. Yeah, right. Anyway, we see a limp from Todd in this hand out of the hijack. Jay Carver finds the raise on the dealer button, pots it up to $95. William makes a call to the big blind. We've got King, King, 10-5 rainbow. We're in the straddle spot. Obviously, kings are huge in No Limit Texas Hold'em. Rainbow kings, Pot Limit Omaha. Let's try and see a flop and try and set somebody. I make the call, and we go 4 ways to 6-4-4 with 2 hearts. Nothing doing for us here. I check it. Action checks around to Jason Somerville on the button, who does not put out a c-bet. He checks it back. Head to a turn card that is a favorable one, people. Kings full of 4s. Beautiful turn card. Love to see it. William checks to me again. Don't want this one to check through. There's 2 flush draws out there. Maybe we can get value from one of those. There's also a 4 out there. So I don't think William's going to have that after he checks it again here on the turn. But maybe Todd's got that. Going to go ahead and put out a small bet here. Fire out for $125. Trying to give a good price to any potential draws as well as a 4. Only Jason Somerville, the pre-flop raiser, makes the call. William out of there behind him. Heads up to a river that is the 8 of spades. So backdoor flush draw arrives. We've got ourselves the virtual nuts here. Let's wager some money, try and get some value. $375 is the sizing that I choose. Probably could just bet the maximum here, full pot. If we ever have any bluffs, that's probably what we want to do. Just go a little bit less, try and squeeze out some value here. Seems fine, but Doesn't really matter because Jason Somerville, he's got pocket aces and he makes a very good fold here. He says he likes to believe me a lot of the time. We're gonna have to bluff this guy good at some point, but in this case, we got the goods. He makes a good fold. We drag in the pot.
I need that guy in the hand.
You got, no, you don't want me. No, Andrew, you didn't want me. I had eights. I had
Beat
eights.
that. I can beat that.
You could beat eights? Yeah. Damn.
Really want him in there.
Wow.
I thought you were gonna go like 125 with a strong hand too, because I was like, you know, I need to be priced in, but no.
That's what I did on the turn.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
All right, $20 straddle is on in this hand, and we see Jane Nandez coming in for the raise out of the hijack spot, bumps it up to $75. William out of the way and over to us on the dealer button, looking down at a pretty hand here. King, queen, queen, 7. So it's a pretty interesting spot because the $20 straddle is on and effective stack sizes in this spot are right around that $1,000 max buy-in. So that's only about 50 big blinds. So king, queen, queen, 7 double suited, 2 black cards, 2 red cards. It's a little bit close here. It's a little bit cuspy because, as mentioned, double suited. We've got a king that's connected. The 7 is not connected. So with that being the case, the solver, I think it's going to want to play it a little bit more cautiously than what I'm about to do. What I'm about to do is put in the 3-bet. It looks pretty. It's queens. It's a big pair, and we're not super deep here. So I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet this. Raise it the size of the pot. And that folds out everybody in between myself and Jay Nandez. Back over to Jay Nandez. He wants to continue in this hand, and he wants to do it for even more money. He goes ahead and repots it. Chances are he's got the pocket aces, and chances are we're not going to be able to get away from it. We don't want to fold after putting in a 3-bet pre-flop with 2 suits and 2 queens. As mentioned, we are not that deep. So we're going to be all in here, and it's not exactly the situation that we're looking for because we are up against pocket aces as suspected. We are off to C5 cards here, looking for some help, and some help arrives in the form of a flush draw here on this flop. Flush draw is live. This is why we play hands with 2 suits, because we're going to make flushes a little bit more frequently. And the turn is very interesting because it pairs the board on the 5 of hearts, which gives us a flush, but Jay Nandez remains alive in this spot, considering the board is now paired and he has trips. We just need to dodge a card that will give Jay Nandez a full house, and we scoop a nice one here. But it's bad news because the river is another ace, giving Jay Nandez aces full. We were in incredible shape there with 1 card to come, looking to scoop a 2K pot, but it was not to be. And that is annoying because we're going to have to rebuy once again. But to be honest, I really only have myself to blame because if we take a look here at the Upswing PLO Matrix, which is a great tool for helping you figure out how to play pre-flop, that is the street that has the most science to it for sure. We can see that if you look at the double suited queens with a king 7, 60 big blinds effective here in this spot with an ante. The solver prefers a flat call pre-flop on the button versus a middle position raise. If you have more connectivity, say you have king, queen, queen 10, where all cards are connected and can help you make a straight, then it likes to do some 3-betting and going with it pre-flop, getting it in. My hand is a little bit too loose. It's not egregiously so. It's probably not burning too much money, but it does burn some money, and that is what happens in this hand. We torch the 1K. We're going to have to add on here, and we are now in this game for $3,000.
That's a lot of
And then I
cards.
started seeing him at work because I was.
All right, poker continues here. Poker continues when we get dealt the queen, jack, 8 double suited. Definitely worthy of a raise out of the hijack spot. With the $20 straddle on, I make it $75 to go. Todd calls on my immediate left, and all other participants evacuate. So we are going heads up to a flop, looking for some favorable things to happen and turn this session around. And we see a flop of jack, jack 6. That gives us trips. It's kind of interesting because we could definitely see bet here with our trips, but with a queen and 2 8s, if we happen to be behind on this flop, then it's tough for us to improve. Not that many cards that are going to help us. So I decided to check it out of position, and Todd checks back right away, which makes me feel quite confident that we probably have the best hands here. And when the 9 of hearts comes down, I think it's time to start betting for value. Slide out a bet of $175, which is almost the size of the pot. Todd doesn't seem to like it, leans back in his chair, but nobody likes folding. Folding is boring, so he goes ahead and makes the call. Off to a river card, which is an offsuit 7. Don't think I have to worry about that card too much, considering that I have 2 8s in my hand. Seems like we have good blockers here to a straight. Seems like we're going to be the only one to have a jack here. but it seems like it's gonna be tough to get too much value here. So I do think I wanna bet, but I don't think I wanna go too big. So I decide on a sizing of $200, 2 black chips. Going for some small value here. Seems like Todd kind of has a sense of what's going on here. Looks like I'm maybe going for the old milk job, trying to squeeze out some money here. That's exactly what I'm doing. And when he starts thinking for this long, I'm rooting for a call. Todd thinks about it for a bit, kind of hates life a little bit, but decides the price is right. He goes ahead and makes the call, and we've got ourselves trips, and those trips are good.
Double board bomb pot, man.
And you don't have that many scoops is the other thing. Like, you need to lose players to wrap the tournament up. And
All right, let's see if we can find some momentum in this game, shall we? In this hand, we see Jason Somerville, Jay Carver coming in for the raise out of the dealer spot. We've got ourselves ace 7-4-4, nut suit, pair with no diamond. That's pretty good. Let's go ahead and make this call out of the straddle spot. Heads up to queen 7-5, 2 hearts, 1 diamond. Check it over to Jason Somerville, who checks back pretty quickly. Turns a 9 of diamonds. That gives us nut flush draw. We do have a pair of 7s here. Not so sure how much showdown value we have here. No removal to the strong hands here, so actually not sure if I want to be betting or checking. Could go either way. I decide to lead out here, and Jason Somerville makes the call. Not exactly what we want to see. Looking for some improvement on the river that does not come off suit 6 on the river. Once again, just left with a pair of 7s here. Some removal to straights, but not any that actually matter. There's 4-liner on the board, so any 8 plus one of those middling cards or a 10 is going to end up with a straight here. So again, I don't think my pair of 7s is going to be good here all that often. I think I want to try, find a way to victory here, and I fire out for $200, hoping that Jason Somerville has some sort of 2-pair holding or worse that he's going to be able to let go. But that is definitely not the case. As we can see that he turned the nuts with a flush redraw. I'm kind of surprised he didn't pop the turn here with that good of a holding, but doesn't matter. I'm there. Give him some money here on the river. Give him the $200. He goes for the raise on the river. Obviously, we fold. Taking a look at the leaderboard, we are very much not leading this one. In fact, it's the opposite. Down there at the bottom, stuck city, but there is more pot limit Omaha to be played. Gonna have to do some work here if we want to try and claw out of this mess. Will the clawing begin in this hand, where we see Haley coming in for the limp out of the cutoff spot? Jason comes in for the raise on the dealer button up to $95. We are in the straddle spot, looking down at a double suited hand. King, Jack, 5 deuce. Obviously 5 deuce, those cards are low, but did I mention the double suitedness of this hand? I make the call, and Haley's going nowhere. She calls as well. 3 ways to a flop that comes down. Queen, 8, 5. 2 clubs, 1 heart. Gives us a pair plus flush draw, plus backdoor flush draw, plus backdoor straight draw. Check it over to Jason, the original raiser pre-flop, who decides to not c-bet. So 3 ways to a turn here, which brings in the 9 of hearts. Pretty interesting card here for us, especially as we now have not 1 but 2 flush draws, plus a gutter, and we also have a blocker to the current nut straight. I don't think my pair of 5s is going to be good here at showdown, so all of that added together makes me want to start semi-bluffing. I fire out here for $125, and we get some interesting news right away. Haley goes ahead and pots it. Not exactly what we had in mind. Jason Somerville gets out of the way, and we have a decision now. We've got half the deck that will improve us. We can't be 100% certain that our flush draws are good, since neither of them are nut flush draws, but they're pretty high flush draws. Haley always going to have the nut straight here, or almost always. Perhaps occasionally she'll find the double blocker bluff, but definitely looks like the nut straight here, and we can improve versus the nut straight with our 2 flush draws. Definitely don't want to go anywhere. Looking to improve. Can we improve? I don't have too much money left behind, but I don't want to fold 2 flush draws. I make the call. Can we find a red card or a green card? We can find a blue card. Unfortunately, we're not deep enough to try and represent a full house here with our stack. We've only got $300 left behind. That's not the card we were looking for. I check and give up here. Haley on cue rolls over the nut straight. That is good. Once again, people, we are moving in the wrong direction.
If
We play long enough, it's going to be a $800 straddle.
oh my!
All right, guys, you know what they say, right? When the going gets tough, the tough get straddling. And in this hand, I have the $80 straddle on, playing 5, 10, 10 ante, 20, 40, 80. I learned these tricks down in Texas. This is how we do it down there, and this is how I'm going to do it to them here at the Studio 52 house. All right, $80 straddle on. Somerville completes. William completes. And I look down at the ace 10, 8, 7 with nut hearts. Not a bad hand. All things considered, putting $80 out there blind. We've got a nut suit and we've got some reasonable connectivity. Punish these limpers. I'm going to go ahead and pot this one. These guys want to see some flops here. Jason Somerville, he makes the call, and William makes the call as well. So we see a flop of ace, 4, deuce, rainbow. I guess that's going to be good enough. We're not super deep here, as mentioned. Things going not well for me. Keep topping up to $1,000 each time. And since we're not that deep, and I got top pair, backdoor flush draw, that's going to be good enough. I pot it, and we get some relief here. Both players go ahead and make the fold. We get a little bit of a victory here. Put that $80 straddle out there, you get rewarded.
I didn't see yours.
No, I'm saying Jaden just saw my horrible hand.
Didn't love it,
Yeah.
but good enough.
Quick look at the VPIPs. Casual 55% of hands being played here. Good times, guys. Sort of. Good times. Sort of. We fight on. We carry on, people. In this hand, we see Haley coming in for the limp out of the hijack spot. And we are looking down at the king, queen, jack, 9 with 3 hearts in the big blind. Obviously, 3 hearts, not great, but the connectivity is pretty fantastic in this hand. I'm going to get spicy here. Let's raise it out of the big blind. It's a little bit on the aggressive side, but that's more fun than just limping in, isn't it? All right, I go ahead and raise this up to $80. And right away, immediately on my direct left, Todd comes in for the 3-bet up to $265. Haley, on his direct left, who has already limped into this pot, doesn't like folding. Who does, really? She decides to make the cold call, and it's back over to me. I think we have an easy call here for the additional money. All right, 3 ways, 3 gamblers heading to a flop that comes down. Jack 4 deuce, 2 clubs, 1 heart. Good news, bad news. Flop ourselves top pair here. Got ourselves a backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw. Bad news, 2 clubs out there. We don't have clubs working in our hand, although we do have one of them. I'm first to act and I check it. Todd decides to wager the rest of his dollars. That amount turns out to be $535, which is a little bit less than the size of the pot. There's over $800 in the middle heading to this flop, and he is all in for less. Haley's got herself a little bit of a decision. She goes back and forth a little bit, thinking things over, but eventually decides on a call. Interesting spot here. As mentioned, there's a flush draw out there that we don't have. We are looking to improve. Looking to make 2 pair here. Don't know exactly how many of our cards are going to be live. We don't want to see the king of clubs or the queen of clubs. Good news is that the jack of clubs is out there and the 9 of clubs is in our hand. So if we hit another jack or a 9, we're going to like that. So I toss in the call.
Spicy, spicy. Oh my.
And what do you know? We hit the 9, the offsuit variety. 9 of spades comes in on the turn. And we don't want to just check this one and give any free draws here to Haley, who could have a potential flush draw or other draws to go along with that. Go ahead and pot it, and that sends Haley into the tank.
Weird. This is like a really weird spot. Because I've already got so much out there. And now I have more outs.
Interesting.
It is
Interesting game, that pot limit Omaha.
It is really interesting. Oh, God.
I'm gonna be looking for a game of bingo or something like that later
Oh,
today.
man. My flush might be dead, but now I have this. I'll call. Reluctantly.
We're all in, right?
My wager is all in for $1,780, and after thinking about it for quite some time, Haley decides she doesn't want to let it go. She's got herself a couple of draws here, and she decides to make the call. So we've got ourselves a pretty sizable pot here. We've got top 2. That hand is good for now, but we got to fade a bunch of stuff here. Clubs are live for Todd, who has pocket aces with the nut flush draw. Good news for us is that Haley has 2 of those clubs, and I've got 1 of those clubs. So there's not too many clubs left to be found, but Haley also has an open ender here. So we've got some dodging to do, looking for a safe river card, 3 ways. Full house on the river. We end up with the nuts in this spot. Jacks full of 9s. That is very much a safe river card for us.
Oh my God, what a freaking flop that is. I mean, what a
Thank
turn.
you. Probably
No.
has a good.
Things are looking up, finally. We've been battling. We've been riding the PLO waves here for sure. This pot ends up being $5,975. And that is going to do a lot of work for us in terms of clawing out of the red, find a very favorable turn card and a very favorable river card. Quick look at the scoreboard here after the dust settles following that hand. Chip count, Andrew, that's me, $6,150. That feels pretty good because at this point in the game, we were in for $5,000. Bought into the $1,000 max buy-in game 5 times. We're not done yet though, more poker. In this hand, the $80 straddle is on once again. Poker is being played here. Gambling is being gambled. Todd coming in for the maximum raise up to $315 on the dealer button. I look down at a garbage hand, King, Queen, 7-3. Things going my way, things not going Todd's way, so I ask him if he wants action.
It's different.
You want action? It's a pretty bad hand.
Cheating
You could afford
tough
it.
to prevent.
Definitely don't want to knit it up. Definitely want to provide the action where I can. So the old King, Queen, 7-3, 2 hearts. Toss in the call, defend the $80 straddle, and we go heads up to a flop. Ace, 5-3 with 2 hearts. That's a pair and a flush draw. Not just any flush draw, that's the nut flush draw. Obviously don't love the ace out there. If he's got himself pocket aces, we're not exactly in great shape, but all things considered, we're just going to be going with this one. Nut flush draw and a pair. After Todd pots it on the flop, we are going to be all in. Turns out it is about as good as you could ask for. Check out the percentages in this hand. I only have a pair of 3s in this spot, but I am a 74% favorite with just a pair of 3s versus a pair of jacks. We can hit any heart, any 2 pair outs or trip outs. Those will all be good for us. And the Queen of Hearts on the turn is good enough to seal the deal in this hand. Feel a little bit bad for Todd. He is running the show here at Poker Night in America. Things not exactly working out for him in this game, though.
That one more, and I swear I gotta go.
Ties have turned for us, though. Couple of good results there, couple of good hands. Things have gone our way late in this session.
No,
I
your
mean, I
hand
didn't
is
want
great.
to, but
You can't do anything.
No, I know, I can't do
The big
anything.
blind is 80. You have 1,000. You have 12 big blinds.
Haley talked me into that one,
1,000
actually.
for,
No, don't blame me for it.
Yeah, that was your fault.
No.
You can afford it.
Yeah, when you go,
can
do you want
afford
action?
everything,
I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but not really, 'cause it's not gonna end. It's not gonna end
Yeah,
well.
it didn't seem like.
Quick look at the winnings board. See me in the middle there, plus 2,500. That is very much feeling good considering, as mentioned, we were down about $4,000 previously. All right, guess what? Guess who's got that $80 straddle on? I do. I got the $80 straddle on in this hand. We see Todd coming in for a raise for the maximum. Pots it up to $315. Over to Jay Nandez, who is in the first straddle spot, and he makes the call. Over to us with Queen, Queen, 10-9. It's rainbow, but we got a pair and we got good connectivity, and we got the straddle, so we get a discount. I make the call, and we go 3 ways to a flop. That comes down Queen high. What a beauty. We've also got a 10 that gives us an open-ended straight draw that is going to block the current nuts as well. 2 spades out there. Don't love that part, but the rest of it is looking pretty sweet, honestly. Check it over to Todd, who goes all in for his final $120. As mentioned, things really not working out for Todd so far, and it doesn't look like it's going to work out too great for him in this spot either. Over to Jay Nandez. Thinks about it for a little while. He decides to toss in the call. It's not that much money. Calls $120, but once action back over to us, we're laying down the hammer here. Don't want to give any free cards to those potential spade draws. Pot it with our top set plus open ender. That is going to fold out Jay Nandez. We have Todd in very, very rough shape here because he cannot even hit a king to improve. That would give us a straight. Top set is going to be good in this hand. That's going to be Todd's last stance. Things don't go well for him, but in the end, things go pretty well for us, especially all things considered. And by all things, I mean the $5,000 worth of things that we were into this game for. One last look at this leaderboard, and we see we're into the green for a good, healthy amount. Maybe one last glance at these VPIPs. 56%, and you book a win? That, my friends, is a pretty fun day of poker. Look who I got here. Anytime I get with Jason Somerville is time well spent. IMO.
That's true. I feel the same way because it's relatively rare. We're like a Bellagio bump-in usually conversation. This was an extended hangout.
Yeah.
How do you think it went today?
This clearly it worked out in the end. It's always fun when you like get to ride the waves. And you end on the one of the
up waves.
Yeah, the up waves. Not crashing into the beach as a beached whale.
Yeah, because you were on the beach for sure, and then you found your way back in the ocean, and you became like a whale king by the end of it.
It was great. So worked out for me. Worked out for you as well.
Yes, it did. I didn't really have the down part of the swing. I mostly just had the up part of the swing, and it just never ended till the very end, and it was crazy. But yeah, what a fun game.
Take that as well, of course. So we're here getting some sushi to celebrate 2 winning sessions. How much time / enjoyment are you devoting to poker these days?
I think there's a solid percentage that, I mean, I watch everybody. I watch you all the time. I get enjoyment out of your videos. You know, I'm in there liking every video. I'm in there. You should do that also. Just push that button. But yeah, I play in bursts. You know, it comes and goes. I get invited to the WPT, and I'm in there, having a good time. But then I go back to the dirty basement for a few months. You know,
We do. Well,
people like the doses.
we miss you every time you sneak away into the basement and lock yourself in there for months at a time.
Thank you.
But
Yeah, it's
fun
good to
one
be
here.
missed.
Fun one here. We're going to do this sort of a thing again very soon.
Yeah.
So stay tuned and hit subscribe if you want to see it.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. You guys that watch Andrew, you know who I am. I exist. When I show up on the Young Guy Vloggers, they have no clue. Let's say hi. Let's make this happen.
We
Look
very
at this
much
hoodie.
know.
Look at this hoodie.
We very much know who this guy is around here.
Let's go.